As long as Raila is still alive, people will still want to hear what is Raila saying
what
about
he has
this
to
matter.
say. All right, and a section of Jubilee leaders, of course, have come out to say that, well, it's an opportunity for him now to just concentrate on continental matters and ease up on local politics. Let's listen to what they had to say before we bring in Irungu Kang'ata and get your feeling as to whether you agree with them.
Na kwa sababu ameenda kupata kazi kubwa kuliko prime minister, tunamuuliza hii sasa siasa kidogo ya nchi moja kama Kenya, yeye sasa ni kiongozi wa Afrika mzima. Hii siasa ya hapa Kenya sasa atuachie sisi watu wadogo, yeye afanye kazi ya continent mzima ya Afrika, akichunga mabarabara zetu.
Maombi ya ule alikuwa prime minister wetu ya kukuwa na ofisi kubwa ambaye iko na carpet, ambaye iko na choo ndani, sasa amepata iko huko South Africa. Na ningemwambia ile kazi ambaye amepata hairuhusu uende ufanye siasa.
Be with your colleagues in Jubilee.
From a practical point of view, I don't foresee how Raila will be able now to handle local politics. Reason being, these jobs tend to be quite engaging. It's a full-time job. I say that based on my interaction with my brother, Honorable Wamunyinyi, was once appointed to the EU by the former president, Moi Kibaki. And he used to tell me that it was a full-time engagement. He used to have an office in Mogadishu. And he literally stayed in Mogadishu for a very long time. So from a practical point of view, I'm not so sure how Raila, for instance, can attend funerals, can come here and...
Is that what Kenyan politics is all about, attending funerals?
Well, of course, I'm sure. Well, I'm sure you have seen the kind of activities Raila usually does when he's in Kenya. You find him attending this meeting, So from a practical point of view, there's every likelihood he may be missing in action from the Kenyan political scene. But on the other hand, that does not in any way diminish his stature come 2022. To me, I think also we need to be careful to that. I say that because, again, I have seen also in some instances when a person gets elevated to such huge positions, when they come back, they also get to have also some kind of stature. In any event, a more wiser person can create more networks out there, so that when he comes back, he has some more...
He has more clout.
Yes, he has more clout. So the point is, yes, between now and 2022, practically you ought to be missing in action. But in 2022, that does not in any way mean that going there is going to affect his political stature
in Kenya. All right, and let me come to you, Ambrose. And one of the problems I think we have as a country...
Sorry, maybe I can give some examples so that maybe our viewers can understand. I say that in respect to people like Professor Ongeri. Recall he was UNEP. He came back, he got the seat. Wamunyinyi himself, right? He got a such kind of a position. He came. People like Mukisa Kitui, if they were to come in Kenya, they will still have some stature. So the point I'm trying to illustrate, yes, it is not that he has been confined to some political dustbin. I agree to that. But on the other hand, it may as well give his opponents an open field, so that they can be able to do their things in his absence.
All right. One of the things that we suffer as a country is mentorship. We seem not to have leaders who mentor other leaders. And that's why maybe when Raila, has now a position like this, there are those who feel there would be a huge gap left because there's nobody one can look at and say, this is somebody who Raila has mentored to follow and champion some of the things that he has always fought for.
Thank you. I think our idea of mentorship would be like Honorable Moi, Honorable Uhuru style. You go and pick some young fellow, then you fast track them, then you push them through the throat of people. Mentorship basically means you suffer the pain of your mentor. You go through the footsteps as you learn from what they have. I think there are many people who have learned from what Moi did, what Moi went through, people like Ruto. He learned from Moi, he learned from Raila, Honorable Ruto, Honorable Raila also learned from the father. And so people have been mentored. The only thing is that when the big leaders are occupying the space and they are there breathing down the necks of people, then people scatter. That's why people like Weda have scattered all over. If Honorable Raila was just to be away for kidogo, you will come back and celebrate some of us because now we will grow. But when the big ball is around, the small balls are scattered. So I think they have given us lessons. Lessons that we have
do you think there's somebody who you can identify and say this is Raila's protege? Somebody who's been mentored by Raila?
If you can see, first of all, Honorable William Samoei Ruto is his protege. You understand? He has learned his tactics. The other young people, you will see them. When Jaramogi died, we were all like, we are all finished. Then immediately was buried. Honorable Kiraitu came up, Honorable Nyong'o came up, Honorable Raila came up, Mukiza Kitui came up, Muzikari came up, all of them. You have seen from Moi, you see Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka, you see Honorable Musalia Mudavadi. So it only works well when the leaders exit. When they are still there, you don't raise your head, so they'll cut it. But allow me to say, this job that we are now seeing, and I don't understand what I said, but it's not that big. It's only that Raila is big, he will take bigness into it. But it's a small department. Remember Dlamini Zuma? The chair, the big lady? She still went back to her country to look for the position and even became cabinet. So we are talking about this as a ladder. But it's not that big that we say Raila is going to be very busy now. He should do this. He will still come around and call rallies. We are only saying he should tamper it at diplomatic level so that he doesn't call people names. If he calls us names, we bring him down. But if he treats us with the respect of a serious man in the continent, we continue growing. That
His clout is likely to grow. All right, yes. Michael Agwanda, the question of mentorship and whether we actually have political leaders that groom younger politicians to take over and champion some of the causes. Because, for instance, like you mentioned, Raila is definitely going down in history and has gone down in history as one of the people who've really brought revolution and change in this country. However, that suffers delay or even sometimes derailment when there is nobody to champion that, should he not be on the local political scene as actively as he has been now with his new job.
When we talk about mentorship, it's something that is really good in books, but it's not good practically in a political arena, especially in Kenya. This is a place where we had President Moi, and with his long-serving vice president, Professor George Saitoti. And at one point he said, you know, being a deputy president doesn't really mean that you'll take over. I mean, a vice president doesn't really mean that you'll take over from me. He still opted for Uhuru. You know, mentorship really means a methodical way of training somebody with an expectation to take over leadership. But as we've seen in Kenya, most politicians and Kenyans do not get closer to these leaders because they want to learn from them, but they get closer to these leaders because they want to get money out of them. And we've seen so many people that have come very close to President Moi and fell by the wayside, you know, eventually. We've seen so many people that have come very close to Honorable Raila Odinga, even when he was the president, but they also fell on the wayside because their interest was not necessarily how to take over from him, but their interest was also how to make money, how to use that influence to enrich themselves. And again, as Weda has rightfully said, some of these leaders also do not want to think, even in a million years, that they will exit the political positions they are in. Remember, Raila, in all the parties he's always been a leader, either Secretary General of KANU or the party leader. Or so as long as he's still alive, there is nobody that is going to sit over him and then he follows him in Kenya in a political party. In other words, you will only exhume yourself with those authorities and powers when Raila exits that position. Even if it's in NASA, even if it's an ODM, whatever party, wherever he goes, there is no day that Raila will say, oh, you now be the party leader, I will be the chairman. That is not going to happen. And that is also what is happening in Jubilee and many, all the parties in this country. And there is nobody that wants to say, you know, through mentorship, I want you to stay up here and then I'll just push you and train you. No, we don't do that in this country. And I think it is sad that we are not training. And for example, in Luo community, they never elect their leader. He has to emerge. You must come out with some ferocity and power and exhume some authority that everybody says, man, this is the only legitimate guy. Remember when Miguna was being kicked out of this country? What did the Luo community and many Kenyans said, oh, this is the guy that definitely has proved himself and is going to take over from Raila. Well, we have other leaders like Honorable Orengo, Senator Orengo, and everybody has assumed that we'll take over from Raila. We have other leaders that have been so close to Raila, and Professor Nyong'o, for example, that everybody thought, after Raila exits the podium, that this man will take over. And we have other leaders are also emerging that people are saying, oh, in Luo land, I think once Raila goes, this leader will take over. It will never happen. You will have to prove yourself and literally put yourself by force in that position without you being appointed or through mentorship by a gentleman who says, this is the guy who will take over from me, because that is not going to happen.
All right, Irungu Kang'ata, as a politician, do you have a mentor? Do you think there's a position for a protege or a mentee in this country? Because we seem to have, like they've both rightly put it, very strong politicians who somehow cannot be seen to exit and somebody else take over while they're still alive. Yet, that would probably be a good way to have a legacy left.
Well, it appears for one to reach those levels, to be a major political kingpin, you have to undergo certain phases of pain. So the question is, how many are willing to undergo that process? I think even Jesus himself alluded to that when some disciples were jostling who is going to succeed him. He told them, yes, to get this position, you have to face some problems. I think that adage is as key then, about 2,000 years ago, as of
as
today.
It is now.
I say that because if you look at a person like President Kenyatta, he had to go to prison for him to get that major political position. People like Moi also, you recall the problems they underwent before they became the president. Even Moi Kibaki, he recalled the humiliations that he obtained from Moi government. And also losing twice. The same also for Uhuru Kenyatta. There's this notion that Moi assisted him, but recall, he became a true leader after the 2007 violence, where those of us who come from our region, we saw him as a person who has stuck his neck for us. So the same also has happened with William Ruto. For him to reach that level, he had faced a lot of pain. So I think it appears, based on those several examples, including Raila himself. Remember, Raila is not the firstborn of Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. There is my friend, Dr. Oburu. But you can see he was able to maneuver himself and became the ultimate Luo leader. So, bottom line, based on all those examples, for one to reach that level, you must be ready to experience some pain, which may include, for instance, fighting for your people's rights and maybe suffering as a result of that, maybe maneuvering. So I think based on that, I think there's nothing like being mentored in a peaceful manner or a person coming and giving you that position without any sweat. I think for those who want to reach those positions, they must really work hard. They must really undergo some pain for people now to say, yes, indeed, this person, he has done something extraordinary. So far, like in my region, I can tell you, as a matter of fact, we don't have any person who is ready to fit into the shoes of His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta. For now, I think even in the foreseeable future, I think we remain our preeminent leader. I don't foresee that changing within the several years. And therefore, I think for us, if he tells us to go this way, I can tell him, as a matter of fact, we shall go that way.
Whether do you think this has a cultural twist in the sense that, in the African culture, it is very difficult for you to even think of taking over from your leader or your father in that case. In some cultures, they would even say it's almost like digging your own grave when you try and think, leave alone even act, think of you, leading your own father.
Yeah, I think we are brought up to be timid. We are encouraged to be brave, but things are set up in such a way that you are timid. I hear President Zuma complained and asked South Africans to respect him the way they respected Mandela. And Malema quickly told him, we agree with that. But let's start with the 27 years in detention. Let's walk the Mandela path. I think even us, what you call the pain is what is called in the Bible temptation. You must be, to tempt is not a negative word. To tempt is to test for strength. You must be tested to see your strength. And then a good leader is one that emerges. We are all born leaders. We have leadership within. But you fashion it, you identify it, then you take it through fire, and it sparkles. So our leaders, once they emerge, like Raila, like now you can see my friend is saying Uhuru. It is like a taboo to come up and say, now from this, it is me. The leaders themselves will come and cut your neck. The people themselves are thinking you are being overbearing. They'll curse you, they'll do all sorts of things. They think you are directly challenging that very leader. So Honorable Kangata today, if he says, after President Uhuru, I am next. First of all, it's President Uhuru will come and say, go work, continue working. Other leaders will come to cut his feet. It will be. So our African structure also leaves no chance other than you have to defy everybody. They do not allow a system where you are mentored. You are saying, Honorable Raila, now can you have another 10 leaders or 9 around you? Honorable Uhuru, can you have another 10 around you so that they grow? That system is not allowed.
It's not allowed.
In fact, if you are in that system, they tell you this one is a bootlicker, this one is a sellout, this one is a betrayer, this one is